Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Michigan Military Technical and Historical Society Museum vehicle restoration video. Today, I'm going to take a little detour from what we normally do, and we're going to talk about tools. If you're a mechanic and you work on vehicles, if you're doing this for a living, probably your biggest investment and your number one, most important thing to have is tools and good tools, and take care of them. And kind of got this idea because I had somebody come by and visit, and they were looking at my tools, and they're like, "Holy cow! Your stuff's organized. You don't actually do any work because your stuff's clean and organized." And I'm like, "No, actually, the exact opposite is true." Now a lot of people I know, this is what their toolbox looks like. They have their, and they're like, well, that 5/16 wrench is in there somewhere, I think, unless I left it on the floor, And, you spend 45 minutes looking for a wrench and realize that it's not even there, or it's broken or something. If this is what your toolbox looks like, sorry, it shouldn't. You're wasting time, you're wasting effort, and if you're a mechanic, you're never going to make flat rate with a mess like this. So let's come over here and take a little look at some stuff. So when I'm working on a vehicle, I have my work table here, because the way this shop is laid out, obviously optimally, if you were like working at a dealership or something in a service bay, you pull a vehicle in and your toolbox is right there in the bay. The way this shop is laid out, it's not practical to have the vehicle right next to my rollaway. So when I'm working, I have this table, and I will lay out the tools that I think are required for the job, or as I pull tools for the job, I will place them on the table. I try to keep the table organized so that I know what I have out and where it is, and when I'm working, I know I can reach and grab the tool that I am looking for without having to rustle around and rifle around. I'm probably a little bit more anal retentive with my tools than the normal person. Most people who know me know that I am, I like everything organized. My desk at work, they used to like to move my pens around to see if I would notice, and things like that when I was still working in the office. Sean, if you're watching this, but I think a lot of this came from my father. My father, when I was growing up, worked on the flight line at the local air base. He was a heavy equipment mechanic. He maintained a lot of the runway and service equipment. The snow plows and the runway brooms and things like that. And he always kind of drove it home that if you're working in a situation like that and you leave a screwdriver or a wrench or even a nut or a bolt laying, on the ramp or on the flight line somewhere, and it becomes FOD, foreign object damage. Aircraft engine, a jet engine will suck that up. And in best case scenario, you've just launched a very expensive aircraft engine. In worst case scenario, you just killed the pilot and the aircrew of that plane. So it was always driven into my head from a very young age that you kept your track of your tools, you kept your tools organized, and you kept your tools clean. I think that's something that isn't taught enough when we're teaching new mechanics is to drive home the importance of your tools. Your tools are your lifeline. Your tools are your paycheck, and your tools are expensive. Good tools are not cheap, and you don't want to lose them. You don't want to have to buy them unnecessarily. So there's that. So you can see here's my work table. I have it laid out. Most of these tools, all of these tools normally live in my rollaway, and they have assigned spots, assigned locations. It's kind of like I've talked to some of my friends who are in the military, and it's like when you gear up to go out, you always put your grenades in a certain pocket, and you always put your ammo in a certain place, and your first aid kit is always in the same spot. It should be sheer muscle memory. You should be able to Mechanics should be the same way. You should be able to go right straight to the drawer, grab the tool. You should be able to do it in the dark. Well, maybe not, but you know what I'm saying. And it also is great if you have a helper. Like I was working on this the other day. I had somebody and I was underneath. I didn't want to underneath the vehicle. I didn't want to crawl out from under it. And I'm like, hey, I need this wrench. It's in this drawer. Top box, top drawer left, in the middle, and they could go right to it and find it. So this is my typical work layout. The stuff that I'm using is here and right next to the vehicle. As you can see, we're back working on the Jeep. We're swapping out the oil filter for the correct one. I've got the generator off. I took it out, had to test it. It's fine. Regulator is shot, so all the parts are here. But before I put the generator and the regulator back in, I want to get this oil filter out of the way just in case I spill oil. I don't want to spill oil all over the generator that I just had tested and all that good stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. I got to get the oil out of this. For some reason, this oil filter canister does not have a drain plug on it. So I'm going to have to suck that oil out of there. That sounds like a tomorrow project to me. So let's go over and take a look at some other stuff. So over the workbench, I have stuff that I use, basically your common tools that you use all the time for things. So that if I'm, grab something and I throw it on the bench and I'm working on it, I have a full set of SAE wrenches. I have screwdrivers, pliers, diagonal cutters and flush cutters, and my hammer in the middle, most important. And then I don't do that there, the red handled one, that's my pet hammer. No one's allowed to use that hammer but me. Any of you guys have a pet, like a favorite tool or just a pet tool? I've had that hammer for a long time. It's just, that's my hammer. The hammer in front of it, I don't care. So anybody can use that when they're here, but the red hammer is mine. So don't touch it. So let me come over here. We've got the rollaway. This is where everything lives. And I just got this. I had my last rollaway for like 30 years and knew exactly everything. I'm still getting used to this one. The problem is that I had one of the old, I think it was a 32-inch, and I kept adding intermediate boxes, so it got to the point where it was so tall I couldn't see in the top drawers, so I broke down. And actually Wendy got me this for Christmas last year, and I've been kind of working on it. But as you can see, like I said, so wrenches, SAE wrenches, top, left, upper box. And you can see, so I can pull this drawer open, I can look at it, and I can say, well, crap, there's a bunch of stuff missing. So if that tool table over there was empty, and I opened this drawer and it looked like this, I'd be like, either somebody got in here and stole a bunch of my tools, or I left these tools in the customer's vehicle when it left, and that would be a bad thing. So you keep your tools organized to your best of your ability. Like I have a set of tappet wrenches up here that just refuse to remain orderly, but they don't get used that much. So which tool, which drawers you use the most. So like again, ratchets. I know there's a ratchet that lives here. There's a ratchet that lives here that are on the red cart. So I know that why those are missing. Over here, I don't have a full set of metric sockets. I don't use metric that often. So every so often I'll pick one up and fill in a hole, but generally I don't. But SAE is complete, so I know these SAE sockets are currently over there on the cart in the red organizer. And that's just the way it is. And I have my all my cordless tools, and I have a cabinet full of specialty tools. I've been doing this for a long time. I have a lot of any of you guys that went to Macomb College back in the day, if you had the great Gene Pizzotti as instructor, he would tell you that there are tools and that there are cake tools. You know, cake tools are tools that you can live without cake, but it's really nice when you have it. And so I have things like this. This is a cake tool. This is an offset. You can put a ratchet on here and you can get down into tight recess. It's an offset drive. You know, so I have a lot of cake tools that I have collected over the years. And thanks to Gene for a little shout out to Gene. I know he's retired. I'm hoping he's still kicking somewhere up there in the UP. If you're out there, Gene, you bore an impression on me. So, you know, and then back here, this is where the cake tools live. That cabinet is all cake tools. That cart over there is all cake tools. The toolbox on top, you can see says Model T. Since I was building the Model T, I amassed a collection of tools that are specific to Model Ts, and they live in that toolbox. So I guess we'll just kind of wrap this up at this point. Again, you know, tools, if you're a mechanic, they're your lifeblood. Take care of them, keep them clean, keep them organized, keep track of them. You don't want to have to replace them if you don't have to. You know, a good set of tools, you know, if you have tools that you're breaking all the time, you're not buying the right tools. So, and most of these tools, I mean, a lot of tools in here came from my grandfather and my great uncle, and some of these tools are older than me and a number of you all put together. So, you know, invest wisely in your tools. You know, upgrade when you can. Keep track of them. Keep them clean, and they will take care of you, and they will help put food on your table if you are doing this for a living. So with that, again, we'll take one last look at the Jeep engine. And if you're in the Detroit metropolitan area, swing by the museum. We're right there in East Point off of Gratiot Avenue and 9.5 Mile. Come on in and you can tell me your tool stories, and I can tell you more of my tool stories. So check us out. mimths.org is the museum's website. And like and subscribe is what my boss says I'm supposed to say. So like and subscribe and follow us on our adventures with in the military vehicle restoration world. With that, I'll sign off. Hopefully in a couple days we can have a video of this thing running, driving, charging the battery, and back on its way home to Joe's house where you know, hopefully he can enjoy it. So everybody have a good night, and we'll see you at the next video.